Chapter 16 of Free Air. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Free Air by Sinclair Lewis. Chapter 16. The Spectacles of Authority. Over the transcontinental divide and into Butte, diamond glittering on its hills in the dark, into Missoula, where there are trees and a university, with a mountain in everybody's backyard, through the Flathead Agency, where scarlet-blanketed Indians stalk out of teepees and the papoose rides on mother's back as in forgotten days, down to St. Ignatius, that Italian Alp town with its old mission at the foot of mountains like the wall of heaven, Claire had driven west, then north. She was sailing past Flathead Lake, where 50 miles of mountain glory are reflected in bright waters. Everywhere were sections of flat wheat plains, stirring with threshing, with clattering machinery and the flash of blown straw. But these miniature prairies were encircled by abrupt mountains. Mr. Boltwood remarked, "I'd rather have one of those homesteads and look across my fields at those hills than be the King of England." Not that he made any effort to buy one of the homesteads. But then he made no appreciable effort to become King of England. Claire had not seen Milt for a day and a half, not since the morning when both cars had left Butte. She wondered, and was piqued, and slightly lonely. Toward evening, when she was speculating as to whether she would make Kalispell, almost up to the Canadian border, she saw a woman run into the road from a house on the shore of Flathead Lake. The woman held out her hand, and Claire pulled up. "Are you Miss Boltwood?" It was as startling as the same question would have been in a Chinese village. Why, yes. "Somebody trying to get you on the long-distance phone." "Me? Phone?" She was trembling. "Something's happened to Milt. He needs me." She could not manage her voice as she got the operator on the farmer's line wire and croaked, "Was someone trying to get Miss Boltwood?" "Yes. This Boltwood? Hotel in Kalispell trying to locate you, for 2 hours. Been telephoning all along the line from Butte to Somers." "Well, will you get him for me?" It was not Milt's placid and slightly twangy voice, but one smoother, more decisive, perplexingly familiar, that finally vibrated, "Hello, Miss Boltwood. Operator, I can't hear. Get me a better connection. Miss Boltwood?" Yes, this is Miss Boltwood," she kept beseeching during a long and not unheated controversy between the unknown and the crisp operator, who knew nothing of the English language beyond, "Here's your party. Why don't you talk? Speak louder." Then came clearly, "Hear me now?" Yes. "Miss Boltwood?" "Yes." Oh, hello, Claire. This is Jeff." "Jess who?" "Not Jess. Jeff. Jeffrey. Jeff. Jeff Saxton." "Oh." It was like a sob. Why, but you're in New York." "Not exactly, dear. I'm in Kalispell, Montana." "But that's right near here." "So am I." But "Out west to see copper interests. Traced you from Yellowstone Park, but missed you at Butte. Thought I'd catch you on the road. You talking from Barmberry's?" The woman who had hailed her was not missing a word of a telephone conversation which might be relative to death, fire, elopement, or any other dramatic event. Claire begged of her, "Where in the world am I talking from, anyway?" "This is Barmberry's Inn?" "Yes," Claire answered on the telephone. "I seem to be. Shall I start on and—" "No. Got ripping plan. Stay right where you are. Got a fast car waiting. Be right down. We'll have dinner. Bye." A click. No answer to Claire's urgent hellos. She hung up the receiver very, very carefully. She hated to turn and face her audience of Mr. Henry B. Boltwood, Mr. James Barmberry, Mrs. James Barmberry, and 4 Barmberry buds averaging 5 1/4 in age. She tried to ignore the Barmberrys, but their silence was noisy and interested while she informed her father, "It's Jeff Saxton. Out here to see copper mines. Telephoned along the road to catch us. Says we're to wait dinner till he comes." "Yes'm," Mrs. Barmberry contributed. "He told me if I did catch you, I was to have some new killed chickens ready to fry, and some whipped cream. Jim Barmberry, you go right out and finish whipping that cream, and don't stand there gawping and gooping, and you children, you scamp." Claire seized the moment of Mr. Boltwood's lordly though bewildered bow to their hostess, and escaped outdoors. Round the original settler's log cabin were nests of shacks and tents for bedrooms, and on a screened porch looking on Flathead Lake was the dining room. The few other guests had finished supper and gone to their tents. She ambled to the lake shore, feeling feebler, more slapped, and sent back to be a good little girl than she had when Milt had hitched a Forrest to the back axle 3 days ago. A map of her thoughts about Jeff Saxton would have shown a labyrinth. Now she was muttering, "Dear Jeff, so thoughtful, clever of him to find me, so good to see him again. Now, it's still distinctly understood that I am not engaged to him, and I'm not going to be surprised into kissing him when he comes down like a wolf on the fold. Now, Jeff Saxton, here, makes me homesick for the Heights, and nice shops in Manhattan, and a really good play, music just before the curtain goes up. Now, oh, gee whiz, I wonder if he'll let us go any farther in the car. He's so managerial, and Dad is sure to take his side. He tried to scare us off by that telegram to Fargo. Now, he'd be horrified if he knew about that bum break. Milt didn't mind. Milt likes his women folks to be daring. Jeff wants his harem admiring and very reliable." She crouched on the shore, a rather forlorn figure. The peaks of the Mission Range, across the violet-shadowed mirror of Flathead Lake, were a sudden pure rose, in reflection of sunset, then stony, forbidding. Across the road, on the Barmbury porch, she could hear her father saying, "Ah?" and "Indeed?" to James' stories. Up the road, a blaring horn, great lights growing momentarily more dazzling, a roar, a rush, the halting car, and out of its blurred bulk, a trim figure darting. Jeff Saxton. Home and the people she loved, and the ways and days she knew best of all. He had shouted only, "Is Miss?" before she had rushed to him into the comfort of his arms and kissed him. She backed off and tried to sound as if it hadn't happened, but she was quavery. "I can't believe it. It's too ridiculously wonderful to see you." She retreated toward the Barmbury porch, Jeff following, his two hands out. They came within the range of the house lights, and Mr. Boltwood hailed, "Ah, Geoffrey! Never had such a surprise, nor a more delightful one." "Mr. Boltwood, looking splendid, sir. New man. William Street better look to its laurels when you come back and get into the game." Then, on the lamp-lighted porch, the two men shook hands and looked for some other cordial thing to do. They thought about giving each other cigars. They smiled and backed away and smiled in the foolish, indeterminate way males have, being unable to take it out in kissing. Mr. Boltwood solved the situation by hemming, "Must trot in and wash. See you very soon." Mr. James Barmbury and the squad of lesser Barmburys regretfully followed. Claire was alone with Jeff, and she was frightened. Yet she was admitting that Jeff, in his English cap and flaring London topcoat, his keen smile and his extreme shavedness, was more attractive than she had remembered. "Glad to see me?" he demanded. "Oh, rather." "You're looking—" "You're so—" "Nice trip? You know, you've sent me nothing but postcards with 'Pretty Town' or something equally sentimental." "Yes, it's really been bully. These mountains and big spaces simply inspire me." She said it rather defiantly. "Of course they do. Trouble is, with you away, we've nothing to inspire us." "Do you need anything, with your office and your club?" "Why, Claire." "I'm sorry. That was horrid of me." "Yes, it was. Though I don't mind. I'm sure we've all become meek, missing you so. I'm quite willing to be bullied and reminded that I'm a mere TBM." She had got herself into it. She had to tell him that he wasn't just a businessman. That she had just meant he was so practical. "But Jeff is no longer the practical one," he declared. "Think of Claire driving over deserts and mountains. But, oh, it's been so lonely for us. Can you guess how much? A dozen times every evening I've turned to the telephone to call you up and beg you to let me nip in and see you, and then realized you weren't there. And I've just sat looking at the phone. Oh, other people are so dull." "You really miss—" "I wish I were a poet, so I could tell you adequately. But you haven't said you missed me, Claire. Didn't you? A teeny bit? Wouldn't it have been tolerable to have poor old Jeff along, to drive down dangerous hills?" And fill grease cups, nasty, and stick 'em on the fingers.